there to help me fall. He sees the weakness I didn't see at all. Days of darkness, days of light, hide me not from your sight. I need your love. I need your light, or soon we'll die in this dark night. Look in my heart and you will see one of your children walking with thee, walking with thee, trying so hard to walk with thee.
Erica's heart is with God. She is one of his children, but like most of his children, she needs his garment of light to shield her from the wiles of Satan. The program is On the Path. I'm Kurt Mattson, and today's subject is Halloween, a time that honors the prince of this world, Satan. It has nothing to do with Christianity, yet Christians throughout the nation honor this blatantly evil time by costuming their children with replicas of demons, evil spirits, witches, gargoyles, etc. To this they add copious quantities of sweets that bombard the immune system and often bring about colds and flu, which is quite innocuous compared to treats that are booby-trapped with concealed razor blades, needles, ground glass, and even poison. Halloween is big business. The amount of demonic costumes sold must be in the millions, plus greeting cards and countless tons of candy, the third biggest candy-selling season of the year. How about the media? TV, movies, magazines. TV provides an abundance of horror and gore movies, which are inspired and produced behind the scenes by demonic forces, and usually start about 1 month prior to the big night. Contrary to what some might think, such so-called entertainment is not harmless. Much of the violence and evil acts occurring in our degenerating society are motivated by such movies, and many of these acts will occur on Halloween. If you are a Christian parent, it would behoove you to educate yourselves and your children as to what Halloween is really all about. Open up the family encyclopedia and read about it together as a family. There you will discover that Halloween is traced back some 2,300 years to the Celtic peoples of Great Britain, Ireland, and northern France. The pagan religion of the Celts was Druidism, a totally satanic cult. They worshipped Samhain, or Satan, the god of death, who on the evening of October 31st, their New Year's Eve, allowed the souls of the dead to return to their earthly homes, where they were to be entertained and placated by the living. Under the direction of the demonically controlled Druid priests, the Celtic people, in fearful obedience, built huge bonfires on hilltops to light the way for the returning spirits. The people were also directed to provide food and shelter, as well as to offer sacrifices in those bonfires, consisting of crops, animals, and even human beings. On this dreadful night, the Druids and their followers went to the castles of the land to demand a human sacrifice, preferably an adult female. If that person was handed over to the Druids, no harm would come to the castle's occupants, and the Druids placed what is now called a jack-o'-lantern at the castle's entrance to signal the demons not to kill the occupants. However, on the other hand, if the castle's residents refused to provide a human sacrifice, the Druid priests drew a hexagram on its main entrance, which signaled Satan's demons to kill the people within. This is the origin of what we now innocuously call trick or treat. The treat was the human sacrifice given by the castle's occupants. The trick was death to those occupants if they did not comply with the Druid priest's demands. Over the centuries, with the addition of non-Druidic elements, the deadly aspect of the original trick-or-treat has been greatly reduced, as well as the despicable element of human sacrifice. Blatant Satanism, however, that is, the outright worship of Satan, is still alive and well in our modern world, including these United States. Satanic covens are found throughout the nation, and human sacrifice most certainly takes place, especially on the eve of October 31st, Satan's high holy celebration. Such killings mystify law enforcement and are rarely solved. The first major change that was introduced to the original Druidic celebration, to the returning spirits of the dead, came from the conquering Romans between 43 A.D. and 40 A.D. The Romans, who openly adopted the gods of all their conquered peoples with willingness and tolerance, simply added the October 31st New Year's Eve festival of the Celts to their own autumn festivals. With the arrival of Rome's Christianity in 800 A.D., the Church established All Saints' Day on November 1st in order that the pagan Celtic converts could continue a festival they had celebrated before becoming Christians. The evening before All Saints' Day became known as All Hallow-E'en, or Halloween. This was not the first time the Roman Catholic Church combined pagan festivals with Christian holidays or holy days. This was done with both Christmas and Easter, which are subjects for another time. The term jack-o'-lantern came from the Irish legend in centuries past, named after a man named Jack, who could not enter heaven because he was a miser, nor hell because he had played jokes on the devil, and thus Jack was condemned to walk the earth with his lantern until Judgment Day. The original jack-o'-lanterns were carved out of beets, potatoes, or turnips, and when the festival arrived in America, the pumpkin soon became the popular choice. However, because of strong Christian ethics that prevailed in colonized America, the blatant evil of Halloween was recognized and resisted until the early 1800s, when large quantities of immigrants arrived from Ireland and Scotland, who of course were of Celtic descent and had carried the tradition since the Druids. Now, unfortunately, Halloween is deeply embedded within our culture as a cherished tradition. Throughout human history, customs and traditions have become virtually dictatorial in their hold on a populace. Traditions, right or wrong, seem to supersede reason and simply must be obeyed. It was absolute obedience to tradition and custom, over and above the Spirit of God, that Jesus Christ encountered from the religious leaders of his day. Many of their traditions had become so sacred that to oppose them was to incur violent reaction toward Jesus. The Pharisees had established 39 categories of actions forbidden on the Sabbath, based on interpretation of God's laws combined with their cherished customs and traditions. Harvesting, for example, was work, and therefore forbidden on the Sabbath. When Jesus and his disciples grew hungry on the Sabbath, they picked heads of grain, rubbed them in their hands to separate the grain from the chaff in order to be eaten, and according to the Pharisees, this constituted harvesting and work, and thus was a violation of the Sabbath. Yet according to Judaic law, in both the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy, God had commanded that portions of crops be left in the fields after harvest for the poor to glean, so that they might not starve. When Jesus healed on the Sabbath, he was also condemned and criticized by those same Pharisees, being accused of working on the Sabbath once again. The point being, tradition and custom had taken control of the Pharisees over and above God's Spirit, or, to put it more bluntly, Satan's Spirit ruled, not God's. This is precisely what happens with the tradition of Halloween. Otherwise, Christians would have nothing to do with it, and would condemn it as a time of darkness and evil. Jeremiah 10 verse 2 states, "Learn not the ways of the heathen." which includes astrology and the creation and worship of idols. And in even stronger language, God in Deuteronomy 18, verses 9 through 12, calls the ways of the pagan Canaanites an abomination, and again commands that as God's children you have nothing to do with witchcraft, black magic, or human sacrifice, the demonic works of darkness, all of which have to do with the foundation and essence of Halloween. As Christians, you must choose sides. Are you with God, Jesus Christ, or are you with Satan? You cannot be with both. If you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, God will, quote, spew you out of his mouth, according to Revelations 3:16. In Ephesians chapter 4 and 5, the Apostle Paul tells the Ephesian Christians plainly to separate themselves from temptation and sin, all things unwholesome and evil. And in chapter 5:8 he states, once you were in darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Unquote. Verse 11 states, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And that, my friends, is exactly what we are presently doing. Halloween, All Hallows' Eve, is completely and totally evil. There is absolutely nothing good, uplifting, or beneficial about Satan's or Samhain's celebration of the dead. If you think Satan's High Holy Eve is okay, and you choose to participate in its festivities, regardless of what you have heard on this program, and regardless of what the Bible has to say about the things of darkness, of Satan's evil realm, and if you choose to teach your children that it's okay, you and your children are stepping away from God and Jesus Christ and into the wide-open arms of Satan and his demons. If you teach your children to honor Satan, the devil, by participating in one of his most evil times, called Halloween, though you may be ignorant of the fact, you are teaching them to sin, to disobey God by willingly entering Satan's realm of darkness. Do you want that accountability? I don't think so. Stay with God, yield to the authority of his Son, Jesus Christ, and obey his commands. Stay out of darkness and walk as children of light. Thank you for listening. If you live in the United States, Canada, or Puerto Rico and would like to have a written or CD copy of this message, you may call us toll-free at 888-503-2484. That's 888-50-FAITH. Our email is matsonministries@yahoo.com, and our website is matsonministries.com. Matson is spelled M-A-T-S-O-N. Ministries ends with R-I-E-S. matsonministries.com, where you'll find all ministry information, including a complete list of program subjects available on CD for a contribution of your choice, bearing in mind that this is a listener-supported ministry, and your financial assistance enables us to continue bringing God's precious message of salvation to this suffering world. Matson Ministries can also be heard on SoundCloud by simply bringing up our website, where you'll find a link to SoundCloud, enabling you to hear several different messages. Again, the toll-free number is 888-503-2484. Email matsonministries@yahoo.com. You can also contact us by writing this station, and it will be forwarded to us. Until next time, my friends on Radio Pan Am and Radio Africa, this is Kurt Matson saying, stay on the path.